What does it say about us if we doubt God? How do we know that God is blessing us? These are the kind of questions that we can find answers to in the book of James. And so James is an incredibly practical, in many ways you could say that the book of James is the wisdom book of the New Testament. And this is why we're going to study this together. So this is episode 2 of the book of James here on Ichthus Golf. And I'm looking forward to spending just a few moments with you as we work through some different verses. Chapter 1, verse 5, that's where we're going to pick up today. I want to read this for you. It says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him. But let him ask in faith with no doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all of his ways." Now, that passage can be unsettling for some. But what do I do? What if I do have doubts? How do I handle things? And so what I would love to point out, just in thinking about the idea that we're told in Scripture, let's ask if we need wisdom from the Lord, but in asking, do it without doubting. And so what do you do with doubt? Well, one, doubt helps reveal some things really about yourself more than anything. And what it reveals right off the bat is that you lack some confidence in who God is. And if we lack confidence in who He is and in His character, then that is going to impact our prayer life. It's ultimately going to impact the way that we would live our lives. And so it reveals, as the writer here says, that we are double-minded, and that means we're also unstable. So you can see there where he says, "For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways," that there is an instability in the mind and the heart of the person who doubts God. And so if we are praying, and if you find yourself praying and not able to do so confidently, not able to trust and to believe that the Lord is going to answer, then I think there's a place to do some soul searching and to say, well, what is it about God that I'm doubting? And you might find that you're not doubting anything about God. Instead, you may need to also ask yourself, am I afraid, or do I doubt that God would answer me? And that's an issue of how you see yourself and whether or not you think you're worthy enough for God to hear you and to answer you. And valuing yourself or valuing other people has always been an issue in humanity. We've always had a struggle because of our sin with how we would see ourselves or how we would see other people. And James even continues to deal with the way that we would see ourselves or the way that we would look at other people. And you could easily look around a room and think, well, I think that person deserves for God to answer their prayers, or that person over there, I think God deserves to answer their prayers. And then you look at your life and you're like, I don't think God's going to answer my prayers. I don't think I'm worthy of that. I don't think I'm worth enough or I'm good enough. And all of those thoughts are contradictory to the gospel. For we are not told that God would hear us and answer us because of whether or not we are worthy. We are told here that we should come to the Lord without doubting, that we should come to the Lord with faith, trusting that He can answer and that He is going to hear and that He can act. And so you can see there as this passage continues in verse 9, he says, "So let the lowly brother boast in his exaltation, and the rich in his humiliation, because like a flower of the grass he will pass away. For the sun rises with its scorching heat and withers the grass, its flower falls and its beauty perishes. So also will the rich man fade away in the midst of his pursuits." And so as if the Lord knows where our thoughts might go with, well, I don't really struggle with whether or not God can handle my prayer request or give what I need or help me in this situation. I just struggle with whether or not I am worthy of that. And so in verse 9, listen, none of us are worthy. None of us are in a higher position than one another when it comes to our relationship with the Lord. So if you are wealthy and the world knows you and thinks great about you, then bring yourself down. And if you are lowly and not notable in the eyes of the world, or maybe don't have a ton that would cause people to look your way and to have attention, not a rich individual, then you need to find some comfort in your lowliness. And the rich man needs to get himself down onto the same level. And because at the end of the day, whether we are rich or whether we are poor, whether we are notable or whether we are unrecognized as we walk through the grocery store, everybody passes away. Everybody. Like the flowers of the field, like the grass that you see, rich or poor, we're all going to pass away. None of us are as important as often we think. And that inner turmoil of self-value or of elevating other people or demeaning other people works its way into even the way that we turn to the Lord in prayer. And so we are told here, if any of you lacks wisdom, ask God, who gives generously, and he gives generously to all without reproach. And the all is real. That it doesn't, he just gives to those people over there, or he withholds from those people over there. The Lord answers. And he doesn't answer us or respond to us or interact with us because we are better than others or because we are somehow more valuable than someone else. Not at all. He does it because he cares, because he is generous, and it is more about you trusting him than anything else. And so we come to him trusting without doubting, because it's not about who we are or who somebody else isn't. This is how the Lord works. Listen, I hope that this can be helpful for you. We're going to pick up, matter of fact, I'm going to record another one and post it here pretty soon, but I'm hoping that walking just a little bit through the book of James can be good and encouraging and helpful for you. So read along, study along, look ahead, feel free, ask questions in the comments. But remember, what we say about the Lord with our doubting often even says a little bit about who we think we are. And it matters so much more who God says he is. And friend, it matters a whole lot of who God says you are than anything else. It matters that just matters so much. So God does work, God does bless, and God does answer, and he does care. And the book of James gives us that. So examine your heart, examine your thoughts, examine your belief, and then turn to the Lord and trust him, because he cares about you. And we'll pick up next time in verse 12 of James chapter 1.